Welcome to Hanwell is a first-person open-world horror game where you explore the village of Hanwell, a place where mysterious anomalies run rampant and everyone has gone missing. Atmosphere. My favourite thing about the game is that it just starts explaining nothing and lets you get on with exploring, providing you only an inventory screen that lists things to collect. It sets a tone of mystery. To begin with, you really don't know where you are or what's happening. The first thing you'll likely encounter is a recorder that says a dangerous creature is on the loose. It put me on edge from the very start and it didn't let up throughout the gameplay. When you get to the village of Hanwell, there's an eerie silence. The street is littered with abandoned cars and boarded up houses, and it's just very lonely. Inside the homes and buildings, however, the atmosphere changes dramatically. Nearly every location gives off a different vibe, be it rancid decay, abandonment, or unsettling normality. It's all portrayed through frankly incredible lighting and music, with some areas being so dark you can't see at all. There's also a day and night cycle in the open world, but it doesn't feel like anything really changes, it's just darker at night. No matter what building I went into, there was a constant feeling of apprehension. Because of the changing nature of the combat and the scripted events, no area felt safe. It felt like anything could happen and it was extremely intense. That's one Harry Mason. Scares. The scripted events in this game are incredible, ranging from the totally bewildering to the completely terrifying. Its lack of pattern stops you from becoming desensitized to it. These are some of the coolest events I've ever seen, from a giant eyeball rolling past a doorway to a group of figures locking me in a prison shower that filled up with blood. It causes genuine fear because you have no idea what's going on or how you're meant to survive it. The music ramps up to a dizzying high and only intensifies the panic, but it also sometimes gets really intense for no reason whatsoever, which accidentally caused me to start worrying that something was going to happen. The regular combat in itself is pretty frightening. It's intense, and with enemies that can teleport or hit you rapidly as the anomaly siren blares in the distance, but it's also quite clunky, with it feeling more like flailing around randomly. Every encounter can kill you, and with how glitchy it can be, it does sometimes feel a bit cheap. Then there's the darkness clouds, which attack you and leave you practically blind apart from the sonar ability to reveal where you're going, which looks really cool. It's a nice feature, but it wasn't really used enough. It's also a shame there's only really 4 or so enemy types which you can enter combat with. There's also a few creepy encounters of things lurking in the distance or just out of player reach, which I found very unsettling. Overall, Welcome to Hanwell is a uniquely frightening game that I really enjoyed. That's 2 Harry Masons. Sound design. The soundtrack ranges from creepy chimes to stress-inducing string sections. Some of it is vaguely reminiscent of Silent Hill soundtracks, but it's not as weird. Most of what is here is really emotive and frightening stuff. Between these is the eerie silence that hangs over Hanwell. The sound effects are interesting, but there's some sound environment problems that cause certain collectibles to be so loud you can hear them through 2 or 3 floors of a house. The voices that play over the village-wide tannoy are sometimes difficult to understand. Some things are too loud, and occasionally music will start with no real indicator of what's caused it, and it won't stop until you've entered a building or quit out of the game. The voice acting on the recordings was decent, with some characters sounding more convincing than others, but the standout for me was the one left in the church, which contained the most blood-curdling scream I think I've ever heard.
I am sorry, child, but you have been chosen. Only the will of God Almighty can rid the world of the horrors within. He has spoken to me. I am the messenger. And you, my dear, you are the vessel.
There's a radio to warn you of anomalies like there is in Silent Hill, but the benefit of playing the PlayStation 4 version is that the sounds come out of the controller, which I always find cool. There's a few technical problems holding back a really interesting experience here, but if you can get over these, it's really very good. That's 3 Harry Masons. Gore. Thanks to the lighting and the impressive graphics, the blood looks really good, and there's lots of it. There's a few mangled bodies, and that's really about it. It's shocking when you see it, and it doesn't turn up too often, which is good. That's 4 Harry Masons. Story. The story of the game is told in a few extremely brief character interactions and through phone messages and recordings. It's this lack of information that makes Hanwell such a cool and mysterious place to explore, but the problem I find is I never really found out why Hanwell was like it was. Anomalies had taken over the place with enemies spawning in randomly, but I never found anything to explain it besides implied research. The problem with telling a game through voice recordings spread throughout the map is they're easy to miss and some of them are easy to forget. I finished the game not really understanding what happened, certain characters' importance wasn't made clear to me, and it's entirely possible I missed an important voice recording right at the start. If I can do it, anybody can. Making the final score 4 out of 5 Harry Masons. The game is an intriguing and horrifying experience, and the first open-world horror game I've played that I say works really well. It's a shame the story wasn't easier to encounter. Again, I'd like to remind you this whole thing is down to my opinion on horror games. If you don't share this opinion, then that's cool, I get it. I'd like to point out that whilst I was totally afraid of the anomaly siren, I do not scream like a banshee or annoy the computer, and I advise you don't either. There'll be more horror reviews in the pipeline, and thanks for watching. And always go check out Bumps in the middle of the night. Peace.